this camera, it's one of the best cameras ever made, and why it is still going to be a very relevant camera for so many years now to come. This is the Panasonic G7, and in this video I am going to be telling you the reason why I just got another G7. Even after so many years, I still preferred to buy a Panasonic Lumix G7. And spoiler alert, if you just bought this camera, then I will tell you that you just made the right decision of your life. And if you are not too sure and you are doing some research on whether you should buy this camera, even before we proceed with this video, yes, get a Panasonic Lumix G7 because this camera is absolutely great. And if you just give me some few minutes of your time, I am going to be telling you the reason why this camera, it's one of the best cameras ever made, and why it is still going to be a very relevant camera for so many years now to come, and why investing in this is still a very wise choice. Now stick around, let's figure this out. This camera has some really great features out there that even cameras produced in 2022, or let me say in just the ending of 2021, cannot still even match up with some of the specs of this camera, especially if you're a beginner looking out for your very first 4K camera. But even if you are a professional like myself out there who has been doing this for so many years, still having something like this is a very great idea. To hit the nail right on the head, let's start with the price of this camera. You can really get this camera at really very competitive, really very cheap prices online, especially if you're looking out for Black Friday deals or even on a normal day. The amount at which you can buy this and the kind of image quality you can squeeze out of this is just mind-blowing. This camera records 4K up to 30 FPS, and that is one of the best 4Ks I've ever seen in a camera of this size and under $1,000, because 4K cameras are really bulky, and sometimes even if they are small, at least you suffer when it comes to the money, and this is a very cheap camera. And so that is point number one, the reason why I really love this camera so much. The price point is really very amazing. The second reason why this camera is really so cool, and I think it was way ahead of its time, it's having the flip out LCD. This camera actually has the flip out LCD here, and if you're someone who does YouTube vlogging, or not just vlogging, if you're a professional filmmaker, sometimes especially with one-man band, that is where things like this really come in handy, because when you have a flip out screen like this, it really helps you to be able to compose shots, or let me say shots that are below eye level. Having a flip out screen is really very good, and not all cameras at this price range do have it. The third point from here is that this flip out screen is a touch screen as well, so you can actually open here, touch through the screen. Although personally I don't use that because I hate touch screens. I don't like leaving my fingerprints all over my screen, so I hardly do that. But if that is something that you are interested in, this camera actually have that, and I actually think this is also a pro of this camera. The other thing is battery life. Now it uses, or let me say it comes along with this kind of batteries, and from my experience I've been using this for close to 4 years now, and I can tell you that just with one single charge, this battery can really get you very far. The Panasonic G7 is really a beast when it comes to this. Battery life is really very great on this camera, and for me that is another pro. Now the other pro I must also highlight is the fact that it takes this kind of SD cards, and that is so much very easy. If you're someone who is just getting into videography and probably you have some other old photo cameras lying around which are digital, you probably already have this kind of cards. Now the caveat here is that you really need a high-speed one, because of course 4K needs, or let me say 4K, it's not so much forgiving on cards, so you need a little bit of a high-speed one to be able to use in this particular camera. But for me that is really very good because these are so cheap. To put this into perspective, just buying, let's say, a 1TB CF Express card would cost you the whole amount at which you buy this camera. And so you can imagine just buying a storage device for a Canon camera, let's say like the R6 or the R5, would cost you the whole amount of this camera with batteries and probably some extra accessories. You get where this is going. I mean, so it is really crazy, really good that you can record 4K video to just this kind of small cards. Now for some people this might not really be a very good thing, because I know some professionals always want to be able to rely on, let me say, very reliable systems where you can store your footage very confidently. But from my experience, for all the years that I've used the Panasonic G7, I've never run into any situation where this card has given up on me. And so for me it is still a pro to being able to use such kind of a card in a camera of this form factor. The other pro I must also highlight is the fact that this is a micro four thirds system, and so it allows you, or let me say it's a very versatile system that allows you to be able to use lots of lenses with your camera. Now this might be a bad idea, or let me say some people might not be so much in love with the micro four thirds system, but for me personally, I don't have a problem with the micro four thirds system. And so the advantage this offers you is the ability to be able to attach other lenses via speed boosters. So interestingly, I just got this booster off of Amazon. This is less than $100. This is very cheap, and this is not like the regular speed boosters that you have, because this doesn't give you a chance. As you can see, it doesn't have any form of electronic attachments on it, so this will not allow you to be able to do any autofocusing system, and there isn't even anything like excellent or good autofocusing in this camera anyway. We'll get to that point. So I have this, then all I do is that I just quickly attach this to my camera, and straight away I can use all my Canon EF lenses that I have lying around in this camera. Can you believe that, guys? So for example, I have this Canon 50mm here. All I can do is just to take this off, and I can just go ahead and mount this lens, and that is it. Voila, it's ready to go, and I have it here, and I can use this as part of the camera. Isn't this amazing, guys? So the amount of flexibility such a camera gives you in terms of the kind of lenses you can use is endless, guys. And so for me, buying this camera is still one of the best decisions you can ever take in your life. Now, to cap it all up, let's talk about also the features of this camera. This camera is packed with lots of professional video features, talking about focus picking, being able to visually monitor your sound, focus assistant, and all those other features that you would find in a very high-end video camera. This camera comes in stock with almost all those advanced video features that you might actually need to produce that quality video that you ever wish to produce. Beyond all of this, the image quality is just simply amazing, guys. The image quality on this camera is simply unbeatable, especially at this price. And I'm throwing a challenge to any of you out there: bring a camera that costs as low as this camera, and let's put the images side by side. Let's make comparisons and see how far the images stand against each other, because trust me, I can bet a lot on the Panasonic G7. And so if you just bought the camera and you are looking for a way of justifying why you bought this camera, this video is perfectly for you, because now you have all the reasons in the world to be proud of the decision you just made. And now if you are someone who is also trying to get this camera, now you know why you should get this camera. Now, no gadget in this world can claim to be perfect, or at least within the camera world, no camera as at 2022 can claim to be the king, or let me say the best camera. In fact, that is subjective. There isn't one camera for everything. Hence, there are some disadvantages or quirks with this camera that I really don't like. To begin with, let's first look at where the memory card is actually located. Now, to access the memory, you have to open this part, which is the battery compartment, before you can reach out for the memory card. Now, what does this mean for video shooters? So if you have this mounted on a tripod, it means you have to take this off the tripod, take out the tripod's quick release plate from this camera before you can take out the card. And trust me, when you're shooting live events, or let's say you are in the heat of the moment, that is the last thing you want frustrating you. And so that, for me, it's kind of like a very huge letdown from Panasonic. But hey, let's always remember the price range that we are working with. At that price, we can't even complain. The other downside of this camera is the codecs, because you are only limited with an MP4 codec or AVCHD codec. And what this means is that these are really highly compressed codecs, and they both take a toll on your computer's processing power to be able to play them. To put this into perspective, when I try to even edit 4K from this particular camera, then my computer kind of struggles a little. But hey, again, we are talking about a camera that is less than $1,000 and it's able to record 4K. So again, I'm not sure we can complain so much about that. Even myself, I've even developed a workflow by working with proxies, and so this is not a problem at all. But however, it slows you down because that adds another extra one step to the processing, or let me say your processing workflow. However, if you even have a much more powerful computer than I have, then you even don't have any reason to complain. Now, the last downside of this camera is the fact that when it records, the first few frames are missing. And it's kind of like a headache. And so if you're using two cameras, or let me say you're using two Panasonic G7s, when the new clip is about to start at the middle, you are going to find a black spot, or you are going to find a missing frame, or let me say some few missing frames in between. The other major problem with this is that this camera does not come equipped with inbuilt stabilization system, and I know for some of you, or most of you out there, that is actually a bummer. However, if you're someone who is actually really serious about getting into videography or doing serious video, and your intention is just to get a Panasonic G7 as your first camera, then I'm going to once again tell you that you just made the best buying decision of your life, because this camera is actually going to force you to learn how to really shoot in the professional world. Because trust me, when you reach out for your Aria Lexus, when you reach out for your red cameras, when you reach out for the Blackmagics and all the other cinema cameras out there, you would thank God that you actually started with something like this, because you are not going to be spoiled by autofocus, you are not going to be spoiled by inbuilt stabilization systems, and it is going to force you. For me, the limitations of this camera, aside from where the card is located, and one other one that I'm yet to mention, which is about the fact that when you plug in an external monitor to this camera and you press record, then it stops displaying footage on the external monitor. And for me, this is actually kind of Panasonic doing their own thing, because I'm sure with that, this camera would have just simply been unstoppable. But deep down my heart, I just know that Panasonic just intentionally, they could have done it. I know they just intentionally did it so that they want to push all of us into the GH series, or let me say the GH5s and GH6 that they are releasing into the market. But aside from that, if you are not using an external monitor, or let me say if you are not recording, or let me say if you are not displaying directly with an external monitor, then this camera is great. The bottom line is, the limitations that this camera presents you, for me, are limitations that will force you to learn how to behave in the real world of filmmaking, or let me say preparing you for a much more bigger future as a cinematographer or a video person. So there you have it. These are the reasons why I will still pick up a Panasonic G7 in 2022 and pick it up in 2023 and probably pick another one up in 2024. Now, before I end this video, will I still pick up a Panasonic G7 when I'm going for a professional shoot or a client work? Absolutely not. I might still have to reach out for my Blackmagic or the Osa Mini Pro or any of the other cinema cameras that I use. But trust me, if you are just beginning, this camera is the best camera that you can ever get. And like I said, even at the professional level, I still use Panasonic G7 for lots of productions. And let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, because I wanted to challenge myself to make a full feature-length film with the Panasonic G7 right here from the continent of Africa. If you want to see this challenge come to life, or see me producing or making a whole film with the Panasonic G7, just let me know in the comment section below, and that movie would be coming your way very, very soon. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you're new here, we talk about cinematography, photography, editing, and all its related branches. I am OBL Jr., and if you're seeing my face for the very first time, welcome to the African Amaze channel, where we pick up the big ideas and turn them into smaller ideas so that you, the indie filmmakers out there, can get to implement all those awesome filmmaking techniques and photography techniques in your works. If this sounds interesting, then please kindly do consider clicking on the subscribe button and make sure to turn on the notification icon so that you will be notified anytime I drop awesome content like this on the African Amaze channel. If you have any further questions, leave them in the comment section below, or you can reach me out on Instagram at OBL_Jr., and I will gladly respond to every single one of your DMs. Thank you so much for watching, and I would catch you in the next one. Until next time, as always, guys, keep practicing filmmaking. Peace out.